I'm Lauren Whitehurst. I'm a certified personal trainer and certified nutrition coach.
Hi, I'm Sunny Lippincott. I'm a certified professional life coach and a certified brain health professional.
We also have Angela Salyers, who is a licensed professional counselor, and the three of us together make up
Whole Life Vitality.
We teach whole life vitality of the mind, body, and soul, bringing the physical, emotional, and spiritual together for whole life wellness. Welcome back.
Hello.
We are here with you once again with our Whole Life Vitality podcast. And when I came over this morning, because we record at Sunny's house, which is amazing. Thank you so much for supplying this wonderful place for us to record.
Welcome to my home.
Right? And as I got here this morning, Sunny pulled out her book and said, I read this and I wanted to share it with you. And I was like, okay, awesome. Yeah, share it with me. You know, I'm always curious to know what's going on. And she read it and I said, we need to share that in our podcast today and talk about that.
So we're going to.
Yeah.
Okay, if you have not heard of Jim Rohn,
You're missing out.
you are missing out. You really need to listen to his talks. Go to YouTube.
Yep.
Read his books. They're excellent. He is incredible. And so my brother-in-law shared a podcast where he was speaking with me, and I loved it. So I'm like, I'm going to get this book. So his book called The Art of Exceptional Living. It's amazing. Very short, so it's a very easy read. Your guide to gaining wealth, enjoying happiness, and achieving unstoppable daily progress. And what I love about Jim Rohn is that it's like simple.
Yeah.
These are simple ideals that he's giving to you, but they're so applicable and life-changing.
Yep.
So we have all heard the old adage that an apple a day keeps the doctor away. So he
We've
was
all
kind of
made jokes about it.
Yeah,
We've all laughed about
everybody's laughed about it. But his point was, he came in upon his grandfather, who was always just very, very healthy, having midnight snack. And our midnight snacks, tend to look like, a bowl of ice cream or, a piece of cake or, something like that. He had a sweet tooth.
Trying to stay awake.
Yeah. Well, his was he had an apple with, some fresh squeezed grapefruit juice and, and he was like, my grandfather was always just healthy and working. And so, that really stuck with him. And his point was in this chapter was the formula, like our philosophies. What is your philosophy on life? What is your failure formula versus a success formula? And he said, so what if you decided that you're having candy bar a day? Yeah. So you think about this, our definition of failure is making a few errors in judgment repeated every day. So if you say to yourself, well, I'm healthy now, so what difference will one candy bar make?
Right.
It's not a big deal. But if you make that unhealthy candy bar kind of error in judgment every day, what's that going to cost you in 6 weeks or 6 months or 6 years?
Yeah.
So if the definition of failure is making a few errors in judgment repeated every day, so what is the success formula? A few beneficial disciplines practiced every day. So if you decide to eat an apple instead of a Hershey bar, you've begun the process of turning your life around for the better. If you continue the process, not only with your health, but also your finances, communication, relationship, management, career, and all other habits, you replace the errors with beneficial disciplines, you can change your life for the better immediately.
Yes.
It's your choice. And I just started thinking about that because it hit me when you're making these decisions to change. Say you don't exercise at all and you're going to exercise. Immediately you're like, what does that look like? Well, It looks like, waking up before the sun comes up and beating yourself down in the gym for 2 hours and all these things. And by the time that you've thought through it, like I can't do that. And then you start saying, I don't have time for that. I can't be in the gym for 2 hours. I can't do these things. And what his point is it starts with an apple. Mm-hmm. It starts with, just having something that's good for your body every day. It starts with a small discipline, just a small discipline that turns into something so beneficial. So even with your finances, if you decide, this week I'm going to meal plan instead of, we don't have anything, we got to go out to eat, or we didn't, If you decide on Sunday, I'm going to meal plan for this week, one discipline can change your finances. Just one. If you decide that, today I'm going to compliment my spouse. Your spouse has been driving you crazy lately, and you're just like, I'm questioning everything, whether we're supposed to be together. Is this really going to work? Am I attracted to them anymore? Do I love them? Just one discipline of saying, today I am going to tell them a compliment. Either I love you, I appreciate you, just something. One discipline a day, and say, I'm going to do that tomorrow, and I'm going to do that the next day.
It was probably over a decade ago. I think it was before my son was born. I had a client who was having relationship issues, and she came to me for coaching, not for training, but for coaching. And we sat down together, and she told me all about what was going on in her relationship and just how hard things were and how she wanted things to get better. And I said, I want you to do an experiment for the next week. I want you to tell your husband 3 things you love about him every day. Drop it in when you think about it. Drop it in throughout the day. Do it first thing in the morning. Do it whenever you think about it. But 3 things that you love about him every single day for the next week. And then, we were meeting weekly. So I'm like, we'll talk about it again next week when you come back. And when she came back, she was so happy. And I said, what's going on? How are you feeling? She's like, oh, I feel great. And she told me all about how wonderful her relationship was. And I'm like, that's so simple.
Just one tiny discipline.
It's so simple, but it made such a huge impact because, one, she started looking for those things that she loved in her husband.
Yes.
And then by vocalizing it, he feels appreciated. He feels loved. They feel closer to each other. So many things ripple off of that small thing she was doing each day that really took no time out of her day.
Right.
She was going to exist in those moments anyway.
Yeah.
She just chose to say those things to her spouse.
Yes. As opposed to saying possibly negative things or, just unhelpful or, complaints.
Yeah.
And just taking that health journey and saying, in the morning, I'm just going to get up out of bed and I'm going to stretch for 5 minutes.
Yep.
That's a one discipline. Instead of saying, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to work out for an hour, just say, you know what? I'm not doing anything for myself, any type of body movement. So tomorrow I'm going to get up and I'm going to stretch. Yeah. I'm going to spend time stretching and moving my body before I get going for the day. It's just incredible. What his point is it's your philosophy. Yeah. That's your philosophy on life. You're either, living in a place where you're making decisions every day that are hurting you, or you can decide, I'm going to add something into my day, into my life, just one discipline, and every day you start doing that thing and it compounds and it compounds. So for me, if you don't know my story, I was suffering from anxiety disorder, and I was debilitating anxiety disorder, and I wanted freedom. I wanted freedom from it. And my husband said, why don't you get up in the morning and just take some quiet time and maybe read, try to read something that might just kind of open your mind to what's going on inside of you. And so what did I have to lose? I was already,
it's not going to hurt anything.
It wasn't going to hurt anything. And I had 20 minutes that I could spare from my day. So I did. I set my alarm. I got up 20 minutes earlier than I usually do. And I got a book. My husband had tons of books. And I started with the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Such a good book.
And I started reading and just said, I'm going to read for 20 minutes. That's all I'm going to do. And I started doing that every day, getting up 20 minutes and reading for 20 minutes. And that was in 2017. And this is now, we are, what is today's date? October 3rd of 2023. And I still get up every single morning, and I have a morning routine now. It looks a lot different than that. I don't just read, I do other things.
Right.
I have devotions that I read, that I have, and I do, reading, and I have quiet time, and I do gratitude now. But my life has completely changed because of that. I was someone who could not leave their home.
Right.
I was, staying home from everything. I was throwing birthday invitations into the trash for my kids, having panic attacks regularly. And now I go anywhere I want to. I'm a life coach. I coach people through anxiety disorders. I'm, right now doing a podcast. I've written a book. All of these things started with one decision, one habit.
Yep.
Of just getting up in the morning and reading for 20 minutes. My life changed just from that. You think about what you could do by just changing one.
Well, and he says it changes immediately. And
Yes.
so I think we get so frustrated because we get up one time and read for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And we're not like, well, I'm not successful. I don't feel better. I'm not completely rid of anxiety. But you have already started the process of the change.
Yes.
So you might not feel like your whole world looks different, but it does.
Yes. And that's what his point is that this is something that you decide you're going to do every day.
Yep.
So it's your principle. I'm going to do this every day. This is going to become a part of me. And after a while, now I know. I go to bed and I don't question what I'm going to do when I wake up in the morning. I know what I'm going to do when I wake up in the morning.
Yep.
It's part of who I am now. I will never not have a morning routine. That's, yeah. In fact, if I'm on vacation, if I am sick, then it's almost that, something is missing. I don't feel like I'm even fully present for my day. Because it's part of who I am now. And that is the point. You can do the apple a day, where his grandfather, understood the importance of what went into his body.
Yep.
And even at 88,
That's how he made it to 88.
That's how he made it to 88. He was very healthy, and he had dug a well that morning.
Wow.
And so that is his point. He made that decision that, what was going into his body mattered to him. And that's something that carried on with him, with his children, with his grandchildren, and it made a huge impact, as opposed to that person that says, well, I'm fine right now. I'm fine. I can have a candy bar every day. I'm 20 years old. Doesn't matter. But you think about that process. What is that going to look like 6 years from now?
Because it builds one way or the other.
Yes.
And he says success, and he uses the words failure, but I really guess it depends on what you're looking for in life.
Yes.
So is it failure for me if my body falls apart when I'm 50? Yes, I would consider that failure for me, because that's not the life that I want. So look at your life. Decide what you want, because that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're all just deciding what we want.
What do you want?
And then we're proceeding from there. I was talking to my husband the other day and telling him about how when I shift with clients and we talk about their nutrition, then it can be a lot in the beginning. There is a very large emotional aspect of nutrition. There just is. People become very emotionally connected to their food.
Yes.
And that's fine. I love my food too. I think everybody loves their food, and I think that's great.
Well, and it can go the exact opposite, because in my early 20s, when I had an eating disorder, I hated food.
But it was still an emotional connection.
It was an emotional connection, but it was the opposite.
Exactly.
Because food made you fat.
Right.
And so I'm not doing that. I'm staying away from that, but it was still emotional for me.
So when it's almost like going through the 7 stages of grief as you process changes when it comes to eating more or eating less, or eating something different.
Yeah.
And so as I walk through those changes with my clients, as they're emotionally ready to start making those changes, we're not looking at just a temporary fix. I'm not saying, okay, we'll do this for a couple of weeks and then you can go back to what you were doing before. We're talking about shifting so that the rest of your life is healthier.
Yeah.
Because if you do the apple a day and then you're like, okay, good, 3 weeks of an apple a day, I did it, I'm done, I'm healthy,
fine.
I feel great.
I feel better, so
now I'm going to go back to my candy bar a day.
Yeah.
Then you will go right back to the same path that you were on.
Absolutely.
It takes effort to shift from one path to the next.
Yes.
Because you're on autopilot. If you've ever had to take a different route home from work or from wherever you normally go, then it takes effort to change that route because you have to think about it. You're not on autopilot anymore. So you have to think about what you're doing, what you're consuming, how you're interacting with the world around you.
It is so important to, like you said, what is your reasoning? So you have to have a why backing that. So what is your desire? What do you want? And that's the problem. That's why everyone is flailing now, because they can't tell you what they want.
Yep.
Well, if you don't know what you want, you're going to find that.
My husband told me yesterday, we have some of the most interesting conversations. My husband is just amazing. But he told me yesterday that he heard people who can't tell you their why or won't proceed with their why, it's because they don't want to do what it takes to get there.
Yes.
So if you don't know your why, it's not because you don't know, because you know what you want. It's inside of you. It is in there. It's in your heart. It's in your head. But you either don't think you're worthy of achieving it, or you're not willing to do what it takes to get there.
That's that's heavy.
Yeah. It's a rough pill to swallow, but we all know. We know what we want. If you're unhappy where you are, you know you don't want to maintain that space. You know you don't want to be unhappy forever.
Usually it's what you argue. I have found that in coaching, that when I'm helping someone like figure out what they want, usually when they get to something that they're really argumentative over, I'm like, well, there, we found it.
Yep.
There's the emotion.
Yep.
There,
whatever brings out the passion.
Yeah, that's what it is. You're just scared. You're scared about what it's going to take.
Because the opposite of love is not hate, it is indifference.
Yes.
And if you hit on something that brings up a passionate reaction, you're like, nailed it.
There it is.
Found it.
Let's work on that.
Yep.
So, I mean, think about it. What do you want?
Yeah, what makes you feel feisty?
Get honest with yourself. What do you want? And then start thinking in the terms of, an apple a day. What's that discipline? What's that repeated action that you can take every day that will begin to snowball into your success? What is it for you?
And an apple, eating one apple, is such a small step. For that client of mine, telling her husband those 3 things every day is such a small step. For you, just the 20 minutes
of reading,
such a small step. And it doesn't have to be huge.
Right.
It can be so little. And if you're struggling to figure out what that is for you, or struggling to uncover that why or that want, that desire inside of you, because it's in there, then reach out.
Please, because that's what happened to both of us. We didn't have everything figured out. It was just the one thing, the one decision that we made that just grew into this. And it will for you as well. It will continue to grow and to get larger and to kind of just flower out into the rest of your life. So reach out. If you're just, okay, this is what I want, I know what I want. Can you help me find that first step? Like, what's that first discipline for me? What's my apple a day, decision that I can make.
Yeah.
We are here.
Yeah,
We are happy.
If you
to
don't know
help
how to scale it down, all you can think of, well, I don't have 2 hours to spend in the gym. Well, that's okay. We can help you scale it down.
Yes.
To just the apple.
Just that.
Yep. That was fantastic.
Yeah. Thanks, Jim.
We'll link Jim Rohn's book in the description. So if you want to find it,
Yes.
then you'll have access to it.
Great.
Definitely recommend it.
Absolutely.
So fantastic.
Please.
And I think
This could be your apple.
that's right.
Start with it.
That's right.
Start with it.
And I think we might need to do a podcast on finding your why.
Finding your why.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So if you want to know about that, leave us a comment.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about it next time. Bye, friends.
Bye.